Hello there folks, and welcome back to the Chap'S Guide, the channel where we explore the topics of men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And today, well, you join me again back at Wilderness Lodge because it's getting closer to Christmas. We're nearly in Christmas week now, and it's time to start relaxing and trying to gain some enjoyment from what's left of this rather unusual 2020. So today, I've come out into the woods and I'm going to treat myself to some country mulled wine. So I've got all my kit with me. I've brought my wood burner out of the hut. So I'm going to cook in the outside and you can join me for a glass of mulled wine. So let's get to it. Okay folks, so here are the ingredients I'm going to be using today in my woodsy mulled wine. So pretty much the same as any other mulled wine, to be honest. Just run through them quickly so you know what I'll be using when I start putting these into the pan in a moment. So first of all, I've got some, the prime ingredient is some relatively inexpensive dry red wine. When I say relatively inexpensive, this is a £3 bottle of wine from my local Asda. To go along with that, I like to add a little bit of extra kick to my mulled wine. So I've got a bit of liquor here as well, and that is Canadian Club whiskey. To go in there to add the real flavours behind the mulled wine, I've got an orange, I've got an apple, I've got a cinnamon stick to add that really Christmassy fragrance and flavour, some honey for sweetness, and some freshly foraged cranberries, which will really bring the Christmas kick to it. But first of all, we need to start the fire and get the pan ready to get these ingredients, and the sooner that is done, the sooner we can enjoy the mulled wine. Okay, so one of the best things about mulled wine is, of course, the rewards are high for very little activity. So all we've done, I've lit the fire, I've got my pan here, and whilst it's starting to heat up, I just need to add the red wine into the pan. A whole bottle is all we need. There we go. As I said, it's about £3.50, I think, a bottle of this stuff from my local supermarket. So you don't have to spend anything in the way of expense when it comes to mulled wine because it's all going to taste pretty reasonable. Now what I need to do is just add the ingredients. So I've chopped up my my orange, I've chopped up my tomato, my apple. Be a funny mulled wine if it did have tomato. First of all, I'm going to chuck in my cinnamon stick. That's going to give that wonderful Christmassy flavour. I love cinnamon. It sort of makes everything taste festive, I think. I have it on my porridge every day. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add those other ingredients, which are a bit of citrus and a little bit of apple there. So kind of, quite healthy this. Getting your vegetables and your fruits in there. So I pop them in. Now I'm going to add my cranberries because, can it be Christmas without cranberries? I suggest not. So we're just going to pop all that in there, let that all steep in the red wine. Make that all popped in. Now we're going to need a bit of sweetness because there's not a great deal of natural sweetness in there and the cranberries can be a little bit bitter. So I've got some honey, again inexpensive honey just from a local supermarket, and I'm going to put quite a large heaped spoonful in there, which will melt and will sweeten that naturally in a moment. Honey. And finally, I really like a bit of depth in my mulled wine, not just the wine itself, but a little bit of liquor as well. Now this is where you get to express your own personal choice. So you can put whatever you like. In this instance, I'm just going to put some Canadian Club whiskey because I like a bit of the lighter whiskies, but you can add cognac, brandies, whatever you like, whatever takes your fancy. Bit of Jack Daniels, bit of Jim Beam, bourbon, whatever you like. And you can be as frugal or as generous as you like at this stage. So I'm just going to add quite a bit. Why ever not? It is the festive season after all, and it is a time to be merry. And for me, being merry includes a little bit of Canadian Club. So there we go. So that's it. that is all I need to do. So I'm just going to let that do its thing. I'm going to let it come up to heat, and a rolling boil is all we want. We don't want it sort of bubbling away like, you know, a stew. We're just heating it up and letting those flavours infuse with each other, with the heat being the aggravating factor to get it all moving and getting going. So whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to get a few more little sort of Christmassy touches to my wilderness lodge in place, ready for the festive season. And we're just going to let that mulled wine go and do its work. And let's make this place look a bit more festive. Let's do it. Okay, so let's have a look. How's it getting on? Right, it's been cooking away, or warming up I should say, for about 20 minutes. Let's see what we've got. And that's great. We've got a lovely rolling boil there, which means that all of those flavours will have infused together and should taste fantastic. So now is the most important part, I think, in my opinion anyway, and that is to taste what our wonderful mulled wine in the wilderness is going to be like. So let's give it a run. Well folks, the proof is in the tasting, as they say. Oh, and I gotta say, I can tell there's a lot of Canadian Club in there, but a bit of whiskey adds a great deal of depth to that mulled wine, and I have to say this one is a corker, and so easily achieved in the outdoors. And it really brings the flavours of the season to life, being outdoors, you know, using just materials that I was able to find in the proximity of the hut here, just to make a little wreath, just to show, to express our enjoyment of the holiday season and to take some pleasure from what has been a very challenging year. So on that note, I want to thank you guys for supporting the Chap'S Guide. We've been running now for just over a year, and probably by the time you watch this video we'll have got around about 2,000 subscribers, which is far more than I could have ever hoped would have joined this community to listen to me giving my observations and views on the way that chaps should behave, the way that we should dress, and perhaps some of the other finer attributes that I think would make a good gentleman. Because this is all about being a gentleman in the traditional sense. So I hope you've enjoyed the journey so far. 2021 has great hopes for us. I sincerely look forward to getting back out on the road, getting up to London, going to those wonderful places that we've often talked about vicariously now, Jermyn Street and all those other places that we've been unable to travel to in 2020. And hopefully when the door is kicked open to 2021, we can start seeing a bit more of the world, get further afield than just London, you know, other parts of the world as well. And I look forward to, hopefully, to meeting some of you guys as we start to enter perhaps a more normal life. This mulled wine is great. And you didn't give me a chance to talk to you about the history of mulled wine, because who can join any one of my videos without getting a history lesson? Now, mulled wine has been around since the Greeks and the Romans, and it really sort of came into its being in the medieval times, because as you can imagine knights and castles, can't you, in medieval England, where the water was really bad. So people took to drinking other beverages where the water and the flavour was disguised, and mulled wine was one of the things which, you know, took that position. It was better than drinking the water of the era. But it really came into its own in 1843, when that great magnificent English writer of them all, Charles Dickens, included mulled wine in his quintessential Christmas story, the Christmas Carol. And from that time on, it has become the drink of the festive season. And I enjoy partaking of it today in the woods, the smell of wood smoke in the background, the magnificent odour of that mulled wine bubbling away on the wood-fired stove there. It really makes Christmas come alive to me. So I'm going to leave you now, folks, for your enjoyment of your festive season. I sincerely hope you have at least some respite from the challenging 2020 that we've had over this holiday season, and you can put your feet up, even if it's just watching the television and eating something nice. You know, wear a tie, smell great, and be a chap even during that festive season. So I wish you the very seasonal salutations. I look forward to seeing you again in 2021. Take care of yourselves, have a great holiday period, and I'll see you again very soon. Until then, take care. Wah! That is strong, but it's fun.